If you watch cable news, you may have noticed that ex-members of the intelligence community are frequent commentators. They're brought on as experts and analysts, they might have contracts with the network, and I guess not to say that they're not experts, they just also might be Pentagon loyalists, and I think it may be lost on some viewers that that's the point of view these people are coming from. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in a new series I think I'm calling Spies in the Newsroom. Not married to that. Anyone who has any opinions on that, let me know.
Joining me now, James Clapper. He served as the Director of National Intelligence under President Obama.
I obviously don't know the details of his contract, but it looks like in 2019 he made possibly over 100 appearances on CNN. Now, to understand his point of view, you have to know his background a little bit. Clapper joined the Air Force 60 years ago. In 1970, he went to Thailand, from which he flew combat support missions over Laos and Cambodia. After Vietnam, when people were still grappling with the insane reality of American foreign policy, Clapper was off to college. National War College in Washington, D.C. By this point, he was a career intelligence person. 81, he got his first directorship, Director for Intelligence Plans and Systems, Office of the Assistant Chief of Staff for Intelligence. Bounced around between various intel jobs for a decade, and in 91, under George Bush Sr., he became director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. All of these agencies are just 5 or 6 keywords in different orders. And in 1995, retired. This is someone who worked in the military for 32 years and directly experienced some of the 20th century's most egregious military interventions, and his experience was one of someone habitually walking toward the next promotion. So everything he says should be taken with the understanding that he is a deep, deep believer in the American military project as it stands currently and, ostensibly, all of its pursuits.
Now the president talking about the military-industrial complex when his own defense secretary comes from Raytheon, who was a lobbyist.
So Trump said a few things about the military. He said that soldiers who are killed are losers. Terrible. He said that the generals care more about their allies than they do about trade. Okay. And he said that the military-industrial complex is real and that military leadership advocates for war so that defense contractors can profit, which I think is more or less correct. And yeah, Trump is a hypocrite because, as Anderson pointed out, Trump's defense secretary used to work for the defense contractor Raytheon.
Well, this is just more stunning reinforcement of the president's real disdain for the military.
Of course, Clapper takes offense at Trump's rhetorical disrespect for the military. Clapper loves the military. But Clapper doesn't address Trump's hypocrisy on defense contractors, having just appointed a defense secretary who worked for Raytheon. Because Clapper doesn't see this as a problem. Probably because after his retirement in 1995, Clapper spent 6 years working for defense contractors. Also, whatever insulting thing Trump said about the military, it probably isn't as consequential as the fact that because of Trump, we have the biggest military budget since World War II. Anyway, Clapper was on the board of defense contractor Booz Allen Hamilton before becoming Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence in 2007. And in 2010, Obama nominated Clapper to be Director of National Intelligence. Even though that sounds exactly like all of the other job titles he's ever had, this one is special because it's the head of all of the other intel agencies. NSA, CIA, all of them. But actually, a lot of people didn't want him. Dianne Feinstein opposed his appointment because she thought he would be beholden to the interests of the Pentagon. Gee, I wonder why she would think such a thing. And maybe that is why, reportedly, the White House asked him to step down from the Pentagon role he was currently holding before his confirmation. I guess as a sign of good faith? Evidently not something he was actually interested in because he refused to step down. Not a good sign. And he was confirmed anyway.
You can bet the Russians are messaging Black Lives Matter and white supremacists. Compounding that, of course, is, I am sure, the disinformation they are spreading about the pandemic, and particularly how disproportionately minorities are affected.
So it sounds like he just said that minorities being disproportionately affected by COVID is false. Obviously, he's wrong about that, and it speaks to the journalistic bankruptcy of that reporter that she didn't challenge him on it. But I've already done a video on how CNN is the dregs of news, and He said that Russia is helping promulgate that idea.
You can bet the Russians are messaging Black Lives Matter.
Maybe. It's not like he offered any supporting facts or evidence. And I don't know how many Black Lives Matter activists Russia has supposedly contacted, but I bet it's not as many people as who watched that broadcast. So it sounds like Clapper is doing some disinformation himself. But that makes sense because he's kind of famous for lying.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
That was him lying to Congress, lying under oath, which is actually what they impeached Bill Clinton for, except Clinton's lie was about something stupid and Clapper's lie was about violating the Fourth Amendment, collecting data on millions of people without a warrant, which is why he was sued by the ACLU. Not something they mention on CNN, I bet. And you know what? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he has claimed that he wasn't lying. He misremembered. He was thinking of a different program or something. Sounds like bullshit to me, but fine, because whether or not he lied about it, the fact is he knew about it, and surveilling millions of people without their knowledge should be a disqualifying line in his resume, no matter what. Similarly, there was an allegation that the US collected the recordings of 70 million French citizens' phone data. Clapper said it was false. It is true. Many lies. He is a liar. However, we know he doesn't like getting caught lying because he's joked about putting Edward Snowden on the kill list. Remember, it doesn't matter the importance of the Snowden revelations. Dianne Feinstein was right. James Clapper's allegiance is not to the people, it's to the Pentagon, protecting it and expanding it. Which may explain why, despite being a perennial critic of Trump, he has not been a critic of some of the worst aspects of his administration, like the lunatics he appoints. Clapper didn't seem to take much issue with Trump's Secretary of State pick, Mike Pompeo.
What do you make of Pompeo, the director of the CIA, now going to be nominated to be Secretary of State? Pompeo regarded, he was a Tea Party Republican, maybe less so of an internationalist.
Well, in many ways, I think it's actually a better fit for Mike Pompeo.
And that's because they're both intelligence ghouls who prioritize state secrets over people.
We know the danger that Assange and his not-so-merry band of brothers pose to democracies around the world. Ignorance or misplaced idealism is no longer an acceptable excuse for lionizing these demons.
And here's another Trump psychopath, Gina Haspel for CIA.
In 2002, she ran a so-called black site, CIA prison in Thailand, where 2 terrorism suspects were tortured, and she also reportedly, her name was on a cable ordering the destruction of tapes.
That's right, she oversaw an international torture program, and the tapes he's talking about are these. In 2005, Jose Rodriguez, then the head of the agency's clandestine service, ordered destruction of videotapes of the waterboarding sessions. Ms. Haspel, serving as Mr. Rodriguez's chief of staff, was a strong advocate for getting rid of the tapes, former CIA officers said. So what's Jimmy think about her?
I think the world of Gina. I think she's a tremendous officer, intelligence officer. So I think she'll be good for the agencies. She's very highly respected there, and I think will be good for the intelligence community.
Clapper is a fan of Gina Haspel because he is loyal to the state and to the intel community. This is who he is, and those are his interests. So whatever he has to say about anything you might agree with, just keep in mind it's coming from someone who loves the military, defense contractors, people who oversee torture, perjuring himself, pretending violating the Fourth Amendment, not disproportionately affected by COVID, joking about it. And that being said, like and subscribe if you found this helpful or entertaining, and I'll see you in the next one.